The Mazda MX-30. Not the greatest success story in the motoring world, shall we say. Now, when Mazda released their first all-electric vehicle in 2020, people looked at it and going, oh, a bit of an interesting car, that looks good. Then they had another look at it and went, what is that mile range? So obviously Mazda don't want this pretty premium looking car go to waste, and that's where this little fella comes in. The MX-30 now has a new model, the REV, a plug-in hybrid like no other. But why is that? You see, the MX-30 REV now has a component under here, which sets this car apart not just from the Mazda lineup, but also the motoring world as a whole, because we now see the return of the Rotary engine, not seen in the Mazda lineup since 2012 when the RX-8 was sadly discontinued. So I'm sure we can all agree that the all-electric version of the MX-30 had a pretty disappointing electric range. And that's where the MX-30 REV is rather special, because I feel like Mazda slightly overcompensated when it comes to this vehicle. It's sort of like having a row with your missus, then buying her a Cartier bracelet. That's the sort of level we're talking at, because this hybrid system allows you to travel over 400 miles. And the way it works is slightly different to any hybrid system that you might have heard of, because this car still runs off pure electricity. What it uses that rotary engine for is to power the electric motor. So a car that drives off pure electricity, but without the need to constantly charge up. Not bad, eh? So the REV drives like an EV, but with the addition of the rotary engine. Now, how does that extra weight affect the performance? Well, before I tell you the stats, I will say that it does feel a lot more powerful than the original EV version. And the fact that you have that engine sound, which was obviously not in the EV mode because it didn't have a combustion engine. Why would there be engine noise? Be a bit worried if your EV did make a lot of noise. However, it does feel like a completely new car. The handling feels much better. That rotary Wankel engine just means it still has a bit of grit about it. Yes, it doesn't have that instant response that you expect from an EV, but I mean, it's not far off. Now, down to the nitty-gritty stats, the performance of the REV. It produces 168 brake horsepower and 0 to 60 time of a fairly decent 9.1 seconds, which is strangely faster than the full EV version, although it is heavier for the fact that you do have that extra combustion engine. So yes, it doesn't look like a supercar on paper with that 0 to 60 time. However, the one thing about this car is it really excels in the mid-range when it's getting from 40 to 70 miles per hour, because it really utilises that combination of the electric motor and that rotary engine. Normally, if you would get into a hybrid powertrain, you'd still have that sense of just driving a combustion car, that when you put your foot on the accelerator, it needs to warm up that, that second, and you don't really pull off the line, 1 or 2 seconds later. But with this, it still is fairly instant. It's rather impressive. Now, I mentioned about how the REV drives off full electricity without the need to charge up and not having that worry about running out of charge. And I will say that was a little lie. I mean, it wasn't a massive lie, to tell you the truth. I'm no politician. I don't just spout lies left, right and centre, but you do still need to charge this up for the fact that this is a plug-in hybrid. So at some time or another, you may need to top up with charge. But the one really impressive thing that I've not actually seen on a plug-in hybrid model is the fact that when you drive in modes, you do have a charge driving mode. So this car is essentially like a full hybrid combined with a plug-in hybrid. It's quite strange, that combination, but ultimately it works. Now, we just put it in the charge mode and you can hear that engine starting to kick in, because what is happening right now is that rotary engine is charging an electric motor. So yes, it's a plug-in hybrid, but you can still charge where you're driving. How good is that? So obviously, if you do drive a long distance in that charged driving mode, yes, you're going to save time not needing to charge up, but you will use a lot more fuel and your fuel economy will go down. I mean, the recorded miles per gallon, the combined miles per gallon for this car is 282. But obviously, if you utilise that combustion engine more and have it in the charged driving mode, then that is going to drop significantly. You probably expect about 45. However, if you did want to just utilise that combustion engine more and you needed to charge up with that plug-in hybrid system, then you can actually get from 20 to 80% in just 25 minutes using a fast charger. So it's not on them hybrids, it's going to be hours just to get 53 miles range, which is the full EV range of this car. You don't want to be sat there for hours just for that, for the sake of it. 25 minutes, not bad at all. I do just find it really impressive how Mazda have managed to engineer this car by having a hybrid powertrain. Yes, it's got a smaller battery in the EV model. It's actually 50% lighter than the full EV mode. But you still have that combustion engine and rotary engine, which is going to be significantly heavier. And this car is 146 kilograms heavier than the EV counterpart, but it's 0.6 seconds faster on the 0 to 60 and just feels like it's got a bit more grit, a lot more powerful. And I feel just the whole feel of this car does feel a bit like a racing car type thing. The handling's really good, suspension feels nice and smooth. That rotary engine has really just elevated this car. It's transformed it, pretty much transformed what could be considered a day-to-day EV, maybe a bit of city driving, just nipping the shops. It transformed it from that type of vehicle to something that's very practical, powerful, and it's actually usable in all scenarios. They've done an excellent job. And ultimately, that hybrid powertrain is what sets this car apart, not just from its EV counterpart, not just from the Mazda lineup, but from the whole motoring world. A hybrid powertrain that revolutionised an EV to make it more practical, more powerful, but without losing that sense of electrified driving. So with all that new technology and the addition of the rotary engine, you're probably thinking, hey, what's the catch? Show me the money. Aha. See, that's where you're mistaken. Despite the complete overhaul of this car's powertrain, the REV is only slightly more expensive than its EV counterpart. I mean, we're talking peanuts, or in car terms anyway, because you'll only be paying an extra 500 quid for one of these bad boys. Small price, like I said. Now, when it comes to design, and the only real difference from this and the EV version, this wee little fella down here. Now, what's that there for? It basically just signifies that this is the hybrid version, not the full electric. Apart from that, it's still the same design as the previous model. It has that streamlined Kodo design. They're very much Mazda unique rear lights. You have a bit of an accentuated rear bumper, which would be nice if this was matching to this and not this plastic. Overall, can't really say much about it. You see the MX-30 probably out on the roads, even though, yes, like I said, it's not a great success story, but you probably would have seen one, and it's literally the same. And come to the boot capacity, and despite having a hybrid powertrain, the boot capacity is still pretty much the same. The only thing that would be nice would be an electric tailgate, which just add to that premium design. Now, if we step inside the MX-30 REV, and this is my only dispute about this car, are these flipping doors. I mean, at least Mazda have been consistent in the fact that the last time we saw the rotary engine was in the RX-8. And it's the last time we saw these type of doors. I'm really not a fan of them. And let me show you something. Because if I just climb into the back here, and if the rear door and also the front door are shut, then I am pretty much trapped inside the car. There's no way for me to get out because there is no rear door handle. The way I'd have to open the door is try and reach forward, open the front door. It's not very practical, but at least on the driver's side, you don't get it on the passenger side, which is a bit weird. You do have buttons from the back, so you can push the seat forward, but it's then still a case of got to lean forward, push that door open, and if you're in a tight parking space, you're not going to be able to do that. So then, climb out this way. See, it's not the practical. I'm small and I've just bashed my head on that. If you have rear passengers, then you kind of need to plan where you're going to park. You need a bit of space, and also you need to make sure you let them out because there's no chance of doing that on their own. Now, if we talk about the back seats as a whole, then you do get a decent amount of space. You do get a nice fold-down table design. The seats are nice. They're always the same as the front, no matter what spec you get. The sunroof would be nice if it panned back here. You can't really see much out of it. And also the rear windows are just that little bit small. You know, this plastic bit just obstructs your view. It kind of feels a bit claustrophobic at sometimes. It's a decent back space, but then again, it feels like a premium car and you don't get anything like rear climate controls, no USBs in the back, only a little bit of storage. It's practical, but I would say for a long drive, not the best. In the front seats, like the exterior design, is pretty much the same as the previous MX-30, but if you've not seen it, I'll give you a little run through. You have that infotainment screen which comes with built-in navigation, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard, which is all controlled, but it's very easy dial here. You might be looking at that going, oh, it's not a touch screen. But imagine if that was touchscreen and trying to change stuff while you're driving. That means you don't have to adapt your driving position, and I think it's much safer. You also get another screen for your climate controls, but it also has shortcut buttons down the side for your demisters, your fan speeds, your temperatures. So if you're not a fan of touchscreen, then you can still do that. In here, you also have the heated seats and heated steering wheel, which also come from standard. Another nice touch. In the middle, it's got cork, which you might think is a bit strange. I quite like it. I'm a fan. Feel like it might be a bit Marmite, but it is made from sustainable materials. So if you are an eco-conscious person, then the MX-30 is full of sustainable materials, both on the seats and also in the centre console. You have decent amount of storage, nice little space to pop your phone with 2 USB sockets and also a 3-pin plug. So if your passenger wants to, say, charge the laptop on the drive, they can easily do so. Overall, it's not really different from the previous model. In fact, it's literally identical. It's the identical twin. The only difference is that hybrid powertrain, but it's still a nice living space, the lever-up steering wheel with all your adaptive cruise control, etc, etc. Still a nice car, even though it is the same. Would be nice if they added something different. Pretty much like the entire Mazda range, the MX-30 REV is packed of safety features and driver's convenience features, which pretty much all come as standard. I mean, the only difference from the bottom spec and the top spec of this car is stuff like front traffic alert, just them little features that might make you a tiny bit safer, but things like adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, all come as standard. You also get reversing cameras, and the top spec also comes with 360 parking cameras, you get blind spot monitoring, you get hill launch control and hill descent control. So the MX-30 REV, it's a nice drive, it feels like something new but something we've probably seen before, but it's ultimately a rather safe vehicle. So then here's 3 things that I really like about the MX-30 REV. First is the interior. It's quite unique, don't you think? You know, it has them contrasting materials and colours, the brown seam, the grey cotton and also the white fabric. You also have that addition of cork, which not only is sustainable, but it's very unique. And the fact that these are sort of like coasters, you know, a cork coaster inside the car, I'm very much a fan. The second is the fact that in the boot, you also have a 3-pin plug. So if you want to take this car on a family road trip, say if you're going camping, then you can easily charge whatever items you need to charge with this. Or even if you're pulling at a service station, you want to charge your laptop, etc, etc. It's very handy. The third thing is that hybrid powertrain, the addition of the rotary Wankel engine, which I have to be very careful to say because I could get into trouble if I say something slightly different. But that hybrid powertrain also it means that this has a race performance engine inside a car that was once an EV. So it's practical and it has high performance. Either way, Mazda have done a great job with it. Here's 3 things that I'm not the biggest fan of about the REV. First thing I'm not the biggest fan of is the EV charging cover. It feels very flimsy, it feels quite plasticky. It feels like if you were charging and you accidentally brushed against it, you'd quite easily rip this off. For a car that starts at about £31,000, you expect something a bit better than that. It's a bit flimsy in it. The second thing is the rear design. The front is quite streamlined and it's very much sort of like square boxy shape. Yeah, the back just feels a bit bubbly. This massive accentuated plastic bumper just means it looks like he's got a bit of a fat bum. I just feel like this section lets down the overall design. Mazdas have been known to be streamlined premium cars, and I just don't think this is quite as premium as they once imagined. The third thing are these flipping doors. I mean, even the interior design isn't exactly the greatest. They're not exactly practical. Try and get out the back and you're in a tight parking space. How you expect it to get out there? You pretty much have to open them fully to be able to get out. So if it's raining, you're gonna have to park at the back of the multi-story to actually be able to get out the car. Unless you try and climb over the front, but overall, yeah, you might be a fan of them, but for me, just get better doors, Mazda. So then there you have it, the MX-30 REV. The implementation of that rotary engine has pretty much transformed a rather unusable EV into something that's practical and provides more power. The fact that you have that rotary Wankel engine just means that you have a race type engine in what can be deemed a compact SUV. The MX-30, like I said, is deemed a compact SUV, and in a world of the compact SUVs where a lot of cars would be suits, I feel like this is the Hawaiian shirt. It's different, it's unique, and now the fact that it is more practical, it's definitely one that shouldn't be looked over. For an extra 500 quid from the EV model, Mazda have done a good job with this. Now, if you want to find out more about this car, about that new rotary engine, or just any of the Mazda range in general, then contact one of our 2 Mazda Holcroft dealerships.